Well, it definitely seems as if the floodgates have opened for Zak Bagans because, well, off the back of the videos that I've been making thus far, kind of covering the Holly Madison expose stuff where she talks about him cheating, right? A lot of people have come forward to myself in confidence and said, this is my story with Mr. Baggins. And some people don't like the way I say it. Some people are like, well, it's Zak Bagans, it's Zak Baggins. I say Zak Baggins because I was told that's how it was. I don't know. But I think that's by the by at this point, right? But I've been sent a couple of videos of another person who has allegedly, had some run-ins with Zak Bagans when he was with Holly Madison. And I've also been sent a list from a site of people who have basically shared their disgruntled stories of themselves with Zak Bagans, dating as far back as 2014. So, and I mentioned in my last video that there was some information that I had been sent with regards to Zak, which was very shady. Based off of the information that I've got, everyone's story aligns perfectly with the kind of behaviour that they would experience from Zak. And I'm not going to say it yet because I still need to, dot the I's and cross the T's, but it's not good. It's not good at all. It's actually absolutely disgusting. And, we're talking some very, very serious things that could land with evidence Zak in a lot of hot water. Now, of course, I have to state, everything's alleged right now. People are coming out, yes, with evidence and stuff like this, but, for the sake of not getting sued, I'm going to say everything's alleged right now. But it's not a great look. So let's start with the stories, right? So I was sent this website over from let's call it a reliable source, okay? And they sent this and stated it's basically a website where people share their stories of things. But if you take a little look here, stories of women with Zak Bagans, it is never ending. All of these women have come out with their stories with Zak, right? All of these. Now, I haven't read them all. And of course, it's easy to make accusations. So in the interest of fairness, we'll have to say that we have to take everything that we hear with a pinch of salt, all right? But, yeah. Anyway, this one is the furthest back that I could find. It was from 2014, right? And it's from someone called Ashley L. on February 17th, 2014. So they stated, "Hey guys, my friend recently told me about this website and I have to say I'm pretty disgusted with Zak. I am a recent hookup of his from Twitter. I would have known what I know now. I wouldn't have got involved with him. I can't believe I was fooled by him. Now my eyes are finally open. I am from Vegas and I'm a full-time student at UNLV. I have been a fan of Ghost Adventures for a little over a year, so I knew who Zak Bagans was. I always had a tiny crush on him. I love the fact that he was in charge, but at the same time, he seemed so sweet and caring. One afternoon, I decided to tweet Zak about how he influenced me to start juicing again. To my surprise, he retweeted me. On Friday, I decided to tweet him again as I was watching Ghost Adventures. I was in shock when he actually DM'd me. He said he didn't have many UNLV fans, so told me to hit him up over his email. I emailed him a few times telling him that it was my 21st birthday, etc. And he quickly gave me his number, telling me to text him. One of the first things that he told me was that he didn't do this very often, DMing and texting girls over Twitter. He was very sweet and even calling me and wishing me a happy birthday. While on the phone, he was warning me about the dangers of going out into Vegas, telling me to be careful and stuff. By this time, I was sold that the man was sweet and caring, basically everything I thought he was going to be. Little did I know that he was setting me up to use me. All of this happened when he was in LA shooting the first part of his movie and doing a lockdown. Since he wasn't going to be around in Vegas, he told me I could text or call him whenever I wanted. He was very attentive and texted me right back almost every single time. Given the facts, I assumed I was the only girl that he was talking to at the moment. He would always ask me to send him pictures and videos throughout the day. I sent him a photo of me one morning and he texted back saying, "I love waking up to this." I told him maybe we could wake up to my face in person one morning. He responded with, "That would be even better." He even promised me that I could attend his movie premiere with him. One last day in LA, he called me to tell me he wanted to take me out to dinner for my late birthday present when he got back to into Vegas the next day. At dinner, he got to talk about ghosts and he was telling me about his dungeon. I told him I wanted to see it, so he offered to give me a tour. When he was showing me the dungeon, we started making out. Then he told me to go upstairs. That was the first night that we had sex. After that night, the sweet and caring Zak that I knew completely vanished. He didn't text back for a couple of days. Just when I would start to get pissed off at him, he would use his charm and reel me back in. The only time that he would text or call was when he wanted me to come over to have sex. I became frustrated when he would blow me off or call me only to have sex, so I started questioning him. He gave me the old tired excuse that he was very busy with Ghost Adventures and other projects. He would get me every time with his charm and sweet words. A few days later, he would turn back into a douche. One night, he wanted me to sleep over. I couldn't because I had a test the next day. He seemed fine with it, telling me that he hopes that I get an A on the test. I continued to text him throughout the night, and he even sent me a picture. Here's the big shocker. I get a text on my phone later that night from a girl saying that she was with him and to leave him alone. I couldn't believe that he would text me while he was with someone else. I confronted him and he basically ignored it. I was so mad that I told my friend what had happened and she told me about this website. I just want to come here and share my story. I'm not trying to hate on Zak or anything like that. I already moved on from him when we don't text or talk anymore. If you don't believe me, I will provide proof of the DM and various texts and emails we sent. I hope that some ladies read my story and do not make the same mistake. Don't fall for the sweet guy ways because he's only an act. Once he gets what he wants, he will treat you like shit. I wish I'd never met Zak Bagans. I actually really wish I would have seen this site before I decided to tweet him. Don't let him use you, ladies. Stand up to him and don't fall for anything he says. Now, based off the fact that this was back in 2014, and obviously this is now 11 years later, right now. In fact, it's over 11 years later now. The same recurring behaviours seem to be happening because I've spoken to a few people now, right, with regards to Zak's behaviours towards them when they were, like, you know, getting into the, like, hookup phase, and it was incredibly similar. Everything, to a T, is the exact same. They would go over, they would do things, he'd blow them off, job done, right? And, you know, he'll only call them over when he wanted something, allegedly, right? But then I stumbled across, well, I was sent this video. I'm not going to name any of the sources that I've spoken to or anything like that because I don't know if they want to be shared. And of course, you know, this is pretty serious stuff. So yeah, just take a little listen to this.
All right. Well, I'm going to try and do this with no cuts. And as well as I can. First few disclaimers is this does involve my last video that I posted a few hours ago, and the contents of this video are going to be rather disturbing, and by disturbing I mean they involve me as a minor talking to Zak, who is not a minor, obviously.
Now, obviously, this is where things take quite a shift, because cheating is one thing. People say people cheat all the time. Why do we care? Well, this is why I was so keen to kind of, like, talk about what's gone on, because it paints a picture of what's gone on. But then I've heard stories, and they are just stories, I have to say, of this being the case. Right, and I didn't know whether to believe it or not, so I had to kind of, you know, do a bit of background research before I start making some very bold assumptions and very bold claims against someone who is obviously in a position of power and influence and financial power, right, who could literally, without even batting an eye, destroy my life, okay? So that's why I wanted to be really, really thorough in my research before making these serious claims, but this video, you know, kind of says what I wanted to say or what I've heard.
While I was a minor, The contents of the messages, unfortunately, I cannot share the direct screenshots, as TikTok will take my video down. All I can share is that he does indeed have me blocked. I've gotten cease and desist from him.
Wow.
And I have tried to speak about this almost 3 years ago in 2022. All of my videos were taken down for community guideline violations. I had gotten a cease and desist in the mail. I had him literally stalking my social media. It was rather scary, and add on top of that, his massive fan base coming at me, calling me a liar, telling me to off myself, sending me death threats, the whole 9 yards. With that being said, at the advice of my lawyer, and to keep me legally safe, I have to say that while these come from his official Twitter account, I have to say that they're alleged claims. But again, I will emphasize that these came from his official Twitter account. The cease and desist came from his team, okay? Actual legal documents that I have still.
Now, it's really such a shame that someone like this, who's been through an experience like what they're describing, right? And while they were a minor, has to claim for legal sakes, whilst it's in the process of being dealt with, has to say that their experiences were only alleged. Just like, don't take that, right, and think that that completely discredits everything. That is a very carefully, legally, binding move. And their lawyers, this person's lawyers, are clearly, stating, you need to do this to avoid any legal fallout before things take action, right? And it's such a shame, because a lot of people will hear that and be like instantly like, no, that discredits you. You're not being honest in what you're talking about. That's not exactly the case, ladies and gentlemen. You just, like, in the world of law and politics and financial, but with someone as powerful as Zak Bagans, he will do absolutely anything and everything to maintain his reputation, to keep himself squeaky clean, and also, potentially keep himself out of prison. If it goes that far, and if these can be proved to be legit, and I have to say alleged as well, and that doesn't mean that I'm discredited, it just means that I don't want to get sued either. So, yeah.
Again, this video has no cuts. I may get choked up a bit, or not know what to say, because it's still hard to process. So, this all started at the end of 2015, going into 2016. I was a huge fan of Ghost Adventures ever since the 5th grade. Zach was not my favorite, and I'm cope laughing to deal with it. However, I still did find him to be attractive, alluring, whatever you want to call it. And I did look up to him. It's hard for me now at 23 to even stomach the fact that I'm making this video again, and the fact that I know for a fact that this has happened to other people. So anyways, into 2015 and into 2016, so I was 14 at the time. Nothing really seemed off. I would get notices on Twitter, it is what it is. Just him interacting with fans, I kind of brushed it off. The first DM I got with him was in June of 2016, and I was 15.
Now, I know that the age of consent is very different depending on where you are, but it is never younger than 16, and I think it's worth noting that, because people like to kind of twist this narrative that, Oh, they were legally of age. Yes, it morally isn't right, but you know they're not breaking the law. No, 15 is underage, right? The age of consent is 16. The age of consent in most places is 18. Well, I think in the UK it's 16. Most places are 16. A lot of places are 18 as well, though. But you know, it's worth bearing that in mind.
Again, these messages are graphic. Believe me or don't, I don't care. The first message, and I remember exactly where I was when I got it, but the first message I ever got was asking me if I felt comfortable sharing nudes with him. And when I say the first message, I mean like the first sexual message. There was a hi, a hey, a small talk, whatever. I thought nothing of it. The first sexual message I got, though, was in June 2016, and it was asking if I would be comfortable sharing nudes. I shared with him that I was not comfortable with doing that, as I was 15. He then tried to guilt trip me into sending them, saying that they wouldn't be shared with anybody else, they wouldn't be seen, they were safe with him, and that it was disappointing because I was a huge fan of his. Just saying those words make me want to vomit as it is.
Like, those words actually make my blood boil. Genuinely, like, when I heard about stuff like this was before I'd even seen this video. I'd heard of things like this, right? Allegedly. And it is a similar pattern of behavior, you know, this manipulation into saying, well, I am me. You know, you're my biggest fan. You're such a big fan of me and you won't do this for me. To manipulate and use that power of influence to get what you want off of anyone that you want is fucking sick, and it is wrong. Yes, these are alleged claims, right? But they seem to, you know, people are coming out of the woodworks a lot more now than they were about 2 weeks ago. The whole Holly Madison situation has really, really blown the lid off this. And fuck me, is it bad? And it boils my blood to think that someone's using that kind of influence to, you know, manipulate potential minors into sending stuff, right? Yeah, I don't, like, people will always defend people, right? If you know, and in the context of this, people always defend Zak Bagans because they are diehard Ghost Adventures fans. They can never do this, even if the proof came out, even if, like, you know, things happened and he, like, was, you know, punished for this. People would still say this never happened. You know, Zak has been wrongly accused and all the rest of it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Because of how manipulative that statement is. And it just goes to show the power imbalance that is there. Because as a young kid who idolizes people, you don't want to disappoint your idols. At least I didn't. Maybe it's different for other people. The messages continued into July, and those messages included him asking to fly me out, to which I said that I was not comfortable doing as I had never flown by myself, and I was only 15. I reiterated
So again, I know I keep pausing it and I do apologise, but this is again something else that I've heard from multiple people, is that people aren't just from Vegas. You know, he's offered to fly people out to Vegas to him, to kind of, you know, get what he wants out of them, essentially. Yeah.
several times that I was 15. I never flew out. I never met up with him. Something in my brain was just like, this is not okay. This is not right. The messages continued, however, again, begging me for nudes, saying if I was really a big fan that I would do it. And it's just very difficult for me to still process, and I'm trying to keep some of these emotions at bay and make this as clear as possible. July of 2016 rolls around, and I had met one of his previous co-workers, co-stars, whatever you want to call them, and I had that as my profile picture in July. I had met them in April. Zach knew that I had met them in April, as we had a disagreement over it, and he was saying some things. That's neither here nor there. Not my story to tell in regards to what happened there and between those two people. However, in July is when he sent me a very rude message, a very hostile message. He was very angry with me as I was interacting with him on the timeline. I had the profile picture, and he literally said, and I quote, "You have to pick sides, you can't have both." I decided at that moment that this was toxic. It was not okay. I was uncomfortable. And so I cut ties. I told him that I was not going to give up supporting somebody else that I have also loved since the 5th grade because of him. I was not comfortable with that, and I was blocked. The messages, though, happened from June 2016 until July 2016. So a full month of him trying to fly me out, talking sexually, begging me for nudes, trying to guilt trip me into sending them to him. If anything, I hope that this video reaches the pages of those other victims that I'm sure are out there, and that I hope maybe it gives some courage for other people to speak. I do not want followers, I do not want money, I do not want engagement in that way, as I would like to wash my hands with this man completely and move on with my life and continue to heal. I'm literally diagnosed with PTSD from it, depression, anxiety, and I go to therapy 2 times a week because of this. So, hope that's as clear. If you have questions, I'll try to answer them if I can legally.
So, I'm trying to keep my emotions out of it, right? Because, like, obviously I've got a lot that I would love to say and just sound off about, but, you know, it's not my place to do so. But it is worth noting as well that, you know, this is coming from a person who, by the age of 15, clearly had a very sensible head on their shoulders, allegedly, based off of all of the alleged evidence and alleged facts, right? Allegedly. Have to say it. But you can easily see how people of that age, who maybe haven't matured in that capacity yet, could be very easily influenced into doing that because, wow, it's Zach. You know, I've been watching him on TV since I was in the 5th grade. He's him. Like, I've idolized this person, and he's asking for this from me, and I'm special enough to be asked of this, and I'm such a big fan, and he's telling me that because I'm such a big fan that the least I can do for him in return for his work is do this. You can see how the mindset can go and how the manipulation can really kick in, allegedly, if this is true, right? Now, yeah, it's messed up, and this does corroborate with a lot of stuff that I'm hearing now, and it does corroborate with a lot of stuff that is, you know, going on behind the scenes and has gone on behind the scenes potentially for over a decade. Now, we've obviously seen public comments from Nick Groff and Dakota Layden, both kind of corroborating the, you know, the allegations that are being made, knowing that they know things that are going on behind the scenes and stuff like this. And it is damning. And I am talking to people who are, you know, in connection with Zak at one point or another, that are telling me some very, very crazy things. So, yeah, it's not looking good. Obviously, you know, no hate to the alleged victims, regardless of whether you believe them, whether you don't believe them, because, you know, we weren't there, right? I wasn't there, so I can't, like, you say, hate on this person, or, you know, fuck this person or fuck that person, and neither can you. All right, so please be respectful of all parties involved, because we don't know what the truth is, but this is what is being presented in front of us, so that's why I'm covering it. All right, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below while you're down there. You know, just let me know, and I'll speak to you later. Peace.